Buenos dias, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends on where you are in the world. So today we are here for the last CASS talk of the year. So we are going to restart the 2024 season soon in January. But today we are here for the talk of Professor Alfredo Arnaud from Universidade Católica del Uruguay, talking about IoT within the agribusiness industries. But before giving the floor to him, just some announcements. Next week we have a industrial talk, so about RIDEV, an ASIC design house in Costa Rica that will be presented by Alfonso Chacon Rodriguez in real time from San Jose, Costa Rica. If you lost the past CASS talks that normally we do on Fridays, and also the industrial talks that we have about 130 CASS talks in the CASS Rio Grande do Sul YouTube channel, as well more than 25 industrial talks giving an overview of companies working microelectronics in Latin America. Then you are all invited to go to Punta del Este, a wonderful location, to attend the LASCAS 2024, as well Iberchip 2024. So I hope to see almost all you there. But as you should imagine, the call for papers deadline has already finished a long time ago, so the papers were already selected. If you go to the web page, you can see the invited speakers and also tutorials speakers, as well the hotels that are available, the conference venue, and so on. So it's time to prepare your trip to Punta del Este if you have not done yet. There is also some grants for students that are available, more details on the web page. Then 2025, you have still several months to prepare your papers. It will be in the most traditional wine region in South Brazil, that is Bento Gonçalves, very close to Porto Alegre. So you have to fly to Porto Alegre and then we take a shuttle to the wine location. Then 2026, it will be in Arequipa in Peru, also another nice locations, always together with Iberchip. Then CASS also is a main sponsor of the SBCCI, that next year will be end of August in João Pessoa, the capital of the state of Paraíba in the northeast of Brazil. You can see by the photo that is also a nice location. And 2025, finally, after 25 years, we are going to be back to Manaus, so the gateway to the jungle, and to celebrate the SBCCI and the first edition of Chip In was in year 2000 in Manaus. So at that time, we had done an extension of the conference in a hotel in the jungle. We are preparing also to do the same for 2025. So prepare your papers, you have time for that. And CASS is celebrating 75 years, and there is a promotion. As you know, if you do your membership now, it's valid. It's the 2024 membership, and it's valid till the end of next year. And considering these 75 years of CASS, there is a promotion that is Try CASS, where the membership is free for everybody that was not a member of CASS yet. So we have only to pay the IEEE membership, where for students there is a 50% discount that gives the membership to only about less than about $14. So I hope that you are using this opportunity if you are not yet a member of CASS Society. And being a member of CASS Society, you have an extra discount in attending LASCAs, ISCAs, and so on, and also local activities. No? So it's running now, the 2023-2024 student design competition. So the deadline to do the registration is December 15, and then January 15, the local chapter have to select the two best submissions, and then these two best have till March to prepare a YouTube video with the progress of the project, and the winner in Region 9, as well in the other regions, will go to the finals in Singapore, and CASS pay the trip, so the airplane, hotel, registration also, and the winner, the global winner, will receive more $3,000. So, and there is several countries in Latin America that we never saw any team. So it's time to have a large number of teams from all Latin American countries. No? So, but we are here today to see the talk by Alfredo Arnaud, so about IoT within the agribusiness industries. So Dr. Alfredo Arnaud is with the Universidad Católica del Uruguay, where he started IDIE Research Lab in 2005, received the PhD and Master in Science Microelectronics from the Universidad del Uruguay, de la República, in 2000 and 2004, respectively, and has participated since 1997 in several research and development projects in the field of microelectronics and electronics for the industry and in the industry. Dr. Arnaud wrote 2 patents, and as an academic, he published more than 100 papers in international journals and scientific meetings. He is the co-founder of 3 technology companies, BQN in 2004, dedicated to electronics and software for agribusiness, Shipmate in 2009, and ABM in 2018, aimed at the design of ASICs for medical devices and others. For the industry, Dr. Arnaud participated in projects for companies in Uruguay, Brazil, Canada, United States, and India. So thank you very much, Alfredo, to accept our invitation. And the floor is with you to start your talk.
Okay, thank you very much, Ricardo, for your invitation to present part of the work we're doing here in Uruguay. Okay, today I'm going to talk about, as it says, about IoT within the agribusiness industry. That is very important for our countries here in Latin America. It's a very important industry. And here's my background. Okay, I work in the university where we started with the microelectronics group. Now we're moving also, we preserve, of course, microelectronics, but also we're developing a IoT for the agribusiness. This ICT4V is a technology consortium involving companies and government and universities. Okay, I also work for CAUT, a kind of commercial, not commercial, it's an industry chamber about the IT in Uruguay. BQN is a company. I am the co-founder of this company. We develop electronics for the agribusiness, and NEON Project is a consortium of universities and companies to develop IoT. So I have plenty experience with the companies, institutions, and the developing of IoT in recent years. Okay, about our research group in university. Okay, I started in a second with we started many years ago with microelectronics. Okay, now the present we are 4 professors and more than 20 students working in. We started in microelectronics for implantable medical. And then we try to say this experience in ultra low power consumption for electronics to different verticals applications, and in recent years, of course, agribusiness. Okay, trying that to say our experience in the development of ultra low power electronics to sense magnitudes in the agribusiness. Okay, and we got many industry experience. On the right, we got some chips developed at our groups and IoT nodes at the bottom. Okay, here is just to mention one of the latest microelectronics developments in our lab. This is a joint project with Czech Costa Rica. It's a RISC-V CPU precisely for IoT and IMDs, implantable medical devices. So they get in common low power. So it's a specific RISC-V core that was fabricated in a high voltage technology, including different analog circuits in high voltage to for biological tissue stimulator. But what is interesting here in this kind of circuits we are developing is once again low power. Okay. Here in this slide, I have some measurements of our. We're very proud of the low power in our RISC-V core. Okay, it's very few microamps at 10 kilohertz clock frequency. Okay, another example of the kind of IC we developed in the past is a pacemaker IC. This is almost 10 years old project, but it was for a company. What is interesting is part of our industry, of pacemaker that it was implanted in people for many years. A successful product for a company, it's an industrial project. Okay, okay. Well, back to IoT and the agribusiness is why. Okay, I mentioned near 5-6 times to seize our ultra low power electronics know-how. But Uruguay, and it's the same in the rest of Latin America probably, it's a very nice opportunity because the agribusiness sector is very relevant, but in Uruguay it's very innovative and highly technified. It does not mean that there's plenty of IT, but it's highly technified. So it's very important to incorporate technology, IT technology here, and it can increase productivity of a very important economic sector in Uruguay. You can see in the bottom the principal exportations in exports in Uruguay per year, and on the right we got a photo of a company we visited 2 months ago, perhaps, to install our IoT nodes and talk with stakeholders there. Okay, but it's very important sector. Uruguay also is a plain, so it's very interesting to cover Uruguay with a wireless network. Is quite simple because almost all the countries covered by some kind of wireless network. Okay. I want to thank also a NEON project that has support many of these developments you will see. Okay, back to IoT. Let's present. I start all my presentations of IoT with this holistic view of the matter. Okay, because when people say about IoT, say, well, what's IoT? What exactly IoT means, and if you want to work in IoT, what are you going to work with? Okay, these are some questions that many people may ask. Okay, so I try to ask about this holistic view, a whole view of the problem of this sector. Okay, this is a definition of IoT. I obtained this, I copied it and pasted this from Wikipedia. Okay. It's the interconnection via the internet of stuff, okay, with some kind of embedded in daily stuff, okay, with the devices, electronics, intelligence embedded in daily objects, okay. But in fact, it's a great umbrella that may cover many things, because probably most of engineers working in technology, you can say, okay, you are working in Internet of Things, because probably at the present, almost everything is connected. So, okay, under this big, huge umbrella, exactly what does means that I'm going to work in Internet of Things. Okay, it's the same with the agribusiness. The definition is slightly changed from daily stuff to maybe plants, animals, food. Okay, so plants, animals, food now are connected to the internet with the devices, programs, wireless protocols. Okay, but the huge umbrella is the same. It's still the same. So what does it change from maybe say 10 years ago? Because at the present we are talking about the Internet of Things, but 10 years ago you got probably trucks, cars were tracked with this kind of a GPS positioner. 8-10 years ago also you got this kind of mobile payment systems of point of sales, alarms, home alarms, transmit to the internet or wirelessly transmit alarms. So what changed in 10 years that the one at the present we are talking about Internet of Things? In my opinion, is that there's not a single technology that changed it. It was a technology evolution. Okay, so in this sense, we have to think in the IoT, Internet of Things, like a whole, is an holistic view of the Internet of Things. So it involves many technologies that have evolved in the last years. Okay, and we can work with them. At the center is the node, is the IoT node who is transmitting information, sensing and transmitting information to the cloud. Okay, and what evolved in the last year is the low price. Everything is now cheap. The low power electronics. Now you can power very complex electronics from a single button cell. Okay, wireless communication has evolved also. Batteries have evolved. Network protocols have evolved. Now we got advanced networks and this kind of LP1 is low power wide area networks. Okay, it's a steady advance of technology. Here I got many other tags like information integrity and security, sensors, many kind of sensors, servers, big data, artificial intelligence, cloud computing. Now at the present, you got in the cloud, you got virtually unlimited memory and unlimited computing power. Okay, so from inside, that is the node, to outside, that is the cloud, the internet, we got many technologies that have been evolving in the past. Okay, and at the present, I remember, say 15 years ago, 10 years ago, when I developed products, I developed from the transistor Q3 to the protocol, to a custom protocol, but at the present you cannot do that evermore. At the present, you have to work in specific aspects of the Internet of Things. I can work in low power electronics, in artificial intelligence and edge computing, in security, information security, but I cannot develop everything like in the past. Okay, the time for pioneering has ended. At the present, it's very complex, the technology supporting the Internet of Things. Okay, so at the present, I probably work like a system integrator. I install different sensors, plug and play sensors from different companies. Okay, I pay for cloud services, and I develop a small part of my. I'm a system integrator, and I develop a small part of the system. Okay. On this, in this view, we work. What I'm going to present today is we try to work with we're electronics engineers. We work with the nodes and try to develop very low power nodes to transmit low data rate to the cloud using small batteries that will last ideally for 10 years. Okay, so we're working now at the present in this specific sector of the Internet of Things. Okay, particularly in the agribusiness, is very important. There's a need and opportunity to develop IoT for the agribusiness. About the agribusiness, the main characteristic that we can say that are much or less common to most of sensor nodes in the agribusiness is production in the agribusiness is a commodity or commodities. So and cover large areas. So probably your sensor must be low cost. Probably, okay. Perhaps you got a drone with an artificial intelligence camera, and okay, this is a one single drone for your farm. But we are thinking in many sensors in the farm, and must be low cost, battery powered, because we got not a network, a distribution network for energy in a farm. Okay. So low power, of course, if you are battery powered. Massive, we are thinking that in the near future, farms may get tens, hundreds, thousands sensors in a single farm. Okay. And typical farms may cover a few kilometers, square kilometers. So the wireless protocols will be a very important aspect is to develop this kind of long distance, low power wireless protocols. That okay, we are thinking in transmitting low data rates. Okay, probably in the agribusiness we are sensing temperature, an animal health condition, sensor door open close condition, but we have not to transmit a large amount of information. If you want to transmit images, probably we're going to perform some kind of edge computing and extract the information on the site and transmit alarms, figures merits, indicators, but we're not transmitting a huge amount of data. Okay, we are thinking in sensors in the open air, standing for years of operation, so must be ragged, and sometimes we have to locate our sensors, or we want to geolocate animals, machinery, vehicles. Okay. And since we are not to pay for that, probably have to extract the maximum of our electromagnetic spectrum. So, and from my experience in the agribusiness, most of these low power wide area networks are in a star network topology. Okay, the mesh networks are much less used for long distance in the agribusiness. Okay. This to avoid the sensors to listen every time. Okay, some aspects we are going to consider in these notes for the IoT in the agri-food industry. Let's start with an example. Now I'm going to present a few examples we develop in our lab or in companies we are working with. The first example I'm going to introduce is ESL is a electronic shelf label. Most of you probably have seen in supermarkets this kind of shelf electronics label that you can indicate the price, and probably you can update these labels with a kind of wireless protocol. Okay. The technology enabling this kind of electronic shelf label is not wireless. The technology was the e-ink, the development of a display that virtually does not consume power. Okay, so the development of the e-ink, of the electronic ink, allow to implement this kind of very nice shelf labels. And as far as I know, most of them, the wireless protocol are employing is a kind of proprietary wireless to reduce power consumption to a minimum, because the shelf labels are very cheap, and they probably are powered with a single coin cell. So to reduce power consumption to a minimum, they started using this kind of proprietary protocols. But in the middle, the low power wide area network evolved, and in our opinion, okay, probably now it's time to develop ESLs using, for example, LoRa long range networks. Most of you probably know about LoRa. LoRa is a long range, is a protocol, the wireless protocol initially developed for meterings like gas, electricity, water meters. but at the present is being used in everywhere. The main characteristic of LoRa is very efficient to transmit data at long distances, for example, 10 kilometers in open air on site of view. But also it's a free protocol. You have to pay royalties for LoRa, and it uses the ISM portion of the AM spectrum. So you don't have to pay for use it. You have to deploy your network, but once you deploy your network, it's okay. Okay, so we developed this ESL using LoRa. The idea was to manage shelf levels from a central system with a lot of flexibility. Okay, so you can adapt prices according, for example, in the case of in the case of food, to avoid food spoilage, the idea is just to dynamically manage prices in a way that you cannot do that at the present with proprietary protocols. Okay. And the idea was to extend the battery life to, say, for example, 5 years. Okay. And finally, at last, but not this kind of low power wide area network protocols implement protocols that allow to connect thousands nodes to a single gateway. Okay. So in this slide, just I'm describing the idea that this is from a central server to control prices, for example, in many shops. Okay. For example, for consign to because sometimes the shop is not the owner of the food. I got food distributors, and they can manage price to move the food, avoid spoilage. Okay, these are measurement consumptions. In all these works I'm going to present, we were measuring power consumption, carefully measuring power consumption of the nodes. And here I got just a plot for different spread factors. The spread factor is a parameter of a LoRa wireless link. Okay, in terms of the spread factor, the higher the spread factor, the longer distance. But in my opinion, a spread factor 7, that is the lowest, is okay. Probably the higher spread factor may allow to implement more reliable links in terms of interference. Okay. But here we got how many power do I spend in my ESL in transmitting data, receiving data, updating the display, and in sleep. Well, in sleep is when the processor is not doing anything. Okay, so we see that for the lowest refractor, transmitting data is not expensive in terms of power, and in the sense of the energy has no impact, no major impact in battery life. In sense of energy, because one problem I mentioned in sun, okay, is the current peaks that we're going to talk in a few moments. Okay, the other aspect to consider in this kind of DSL, suppose we deploy an ESL network with, say, 2,000 nodes in a supermarket. It makes sense to use LoRa, even we are not transmitted at kilometers. Probably a large supermarket is 100, 200, 300 meters in area, okay, or small markets. Okay, the distance not too long, but with interference of many obstacles and people transmitting data. So this kind of low power wire networks are also very useful in this context. Okay, but the problem is when I deploy 2,000 nodes at the same time, transmitted to a single gateway, what about collisions? Okay, so here we got in principle just simulations of many nodes transmitting to a single gateway, and we are simulated the per hour number of collisions. So there's lost packets due to collisions, essentially lost packets. We're going to experimentally check this later, okay? But summarizing, we have two problems to address in this kind of low power networks, low power sensor networks, is is to power the node for years from a single very cheap battery, and then to how to address, or it's effective to address thousands nodes transmitted to a single or a few gateways in a farm. Okay. Back to the farm. We're also working with the farm area network concept. Okay, there the gateway can be just a Wi-Fi router, LoRa, like in the previous example, an RFID reader. Okay, but the farm area network concept is related to many sensors in a farm, uploading data to the cloud and downloading commands, orders from a central server. You can get sensors in animals, in drones, in vehicles, in machinery, in animals. Okay, but all of them in the farm share the same network. When I develop a specific IoT nodes. Okay. At the present, we are working in modeling this kind of farm area networks also. The idea is, okay, at the present, even in Uruguay, farms got no thousands, hundreds, probably not even tens sensors, but it's a concept that this situation will change, and in the near futures, it will be common to a farm having 1,000 sensors, okay, 100 sensors. So we are trying to model this farm area network. Model is to talk with stakeholders, to address, to make a survey on available sensors, the study data rates and usual transmission rates. Okay, and then the model how many packets per hour, which kind of sensors, distances, so on. This is a farm. It's maximum, I don't remember, but probably 2-3 kilometers distance in this farm, where we have been testing LoRa networks, and to address the previously mentioned problem, this problem of many sensors transmitting to a single gateway. Since we have no resources to deploy thousands nodes, we are working with tens nodes. In this experiment, we was driving with the 40 nodes, emulating multiple nodes. Okay, if, say for example, each node transmits in a pseudo-electric way, as it is representing, for example, 100 networks. So with 40 true real nodes will represent, say, 4,000. Okay. And there we can measure the efficiency of the, in this case, LoRa network with this 1, 2, 3,000 emulated sensors, representing the model of the farm area network we developed. Okay, these are plots, experimental plots. This is very interesting, where we can see the percentage error simulated, simulated and emulated. Emulated means measured. Using our racks, we got 5 racks with each with 10 LoRa nodes emulating a larger number of virtual nodes. So there we can check collisions that are effectively lost packets in terms of the number of emulated nodes, and the experiment and the simulations fit really okay. Well. Once again, back to battery consumption and low power ones, wide area networks. I'm going to present now 3 applications we developed, trying to get the most of a primary battery. Okay, here in the top is a classification, a kind of classification of power source for nodes in the agribusiness. The first classifications is between batteries and just coupling, just harvesting energy. For example, RFID reader, a kind of the energies obtained from the environment. Most of it from the gateway or the reader itself. Okay, but by the moment we put that aside, and let's talk about the batteries. From our experience, the most of, if you can do it, it's preferable to use a primary battery, not to recharge batteries, because recharging a battery is quite complex. For example, even in the case of a simple solar panel, solar panels are expensive. Solar panels, you have to orient to receive light. And the batteries, rechargeable batteries, have a lower shelf life. So probably if a primary battery lasts for 10 years, a secondary rechargeable battery lasts for 10 years. Also, remember, a primary battery is non-rechargeable. A secondary battery is a rechargeable battery, okay? So at the present, we are working, is a hypothesis, a starting point. We're working with the primary batteries. And an aspect you have to take into account is if you start to search in the internet for primary batteries, you will see dozens of types. But from my experience of that, only 3 are being really employed in commercial products. That are alkaline batteries, you can buy that in the supermarket. Lithium-tionide, this is LiSOCl batteries, and the lithium manganese battery. Okay. At the present, we are working because they have a higher voltage and allow to provide a relatively large current peaks for that transmission. We are working with the lithium-tionide batteries, but okay, you can switch to another one. But because of a matter of price, energy density, experiences, and mature products, probably these 3 are the most used batteries employed in industrial developments. Okay. Okay. Once you got the battery, you have to solve some trade-off in an IoT nodes for the agribusiness about the battery life, communication distance, the complexity of your low power wide area network, allowing to address, for example, 1,000 nodes, allowing to reduce the airtime, the price, of course, and finally, edge computing. Okay, because you can do a lot of calculations and, for example, image processing in your node. But okay, that drains power from the battery. And at the present, with such an efficient wireless network that are being deployed, simple calculations probably may drain more battery power from than that data transmission. Okay, so you got there a trade-off between, okay, how many edge computing, how many data I transmit, and probably the equilibrium is based, or the optimum is based on power. The key aspect is power. This is a new example that will help to shed light on what I was mentioning. This is a platform for estrus detection in cattle, in dairy farms. Okay, this kind of device uses an accelerometer to sense movement of an animal. The importance of estrus, you have to detect estrus fast, because in dairy farms, an animal, a cow, produces milk as it got I don't remember the word exact, but to breastfeed. So the idea is the cows every time breastfeed, and so in between borns, you have to reduce the time between borns, and reduce time in between borns is to detect estrus. And it's a relatively complex task, but since the behavior of the animal change during estrus, you can detect the condition measuring movement, measuring acceleration. Okay, so this is just essentially, this device is a collar for cows, sensing acceleration, steadily taking information from a very, very low power accelerometer. It makes, at the present, it makes a very simple signal processing and then transmit using this LoRa protocol to a central server. The idea is that estrus lasts for 10, 12 hours, so you have to detect it fast and transmit and wirelessly send an advice of the condition. So in the collar, you have to perform some kind of simple but steady edge computing to extract information. It's not possible to transmit a plot of acceleration time for the cloud to process it with artificial intelligence and so on. So an important aspect of the IoT node is to develop some kind of edge computing compliant with the battery power available, with available battery power. Okay. These are measurements, current consumption measurements of this device. We just used the DUT is the device under test. We just used a differential amplifier and a shunt resistor to measure current consumption. The switch in the picture is to shunt the resistor, because during power up, if you're measuring, for example, sleep current of microamp, you have to place a relatively large resistor in series, and it's not possible to power up the system with this large resistor. But okay, after changing resistors and managing operating the switch, we can measure current. This in the plot on the right. During microprocessor sleep, but the accelerometer is turned on. So 3 microamps includes the CPU sleep current plus accelerometer. 1.2 milliamps during the signal processing, okay, and 90 milliamps during LoRa data transmission. This is a measured value. But of course, data transmission, signal processing takes a short time. It's 12 milliseconds and 23 milliseconds. Okay, but you see that here we are transmitting data each 15 minutes, and even with that, if you make calculations in terms of the energy, at least your battery should last, say for example, 10 years. This is a 1,000 milliamps lithium-thionyl battery. Okay, so in terms of energy, you can transmit a lot of data during years if you're not worried about transmitting always on or always transmit. No, I transmit one, I don't remember here, I think it's 32 bytes data packet each 32 minutes. Each 15 minutes. And if you make calculations, your battery should last for years. Okay. Another problem I'm not going to discuss in this presentation because of time. You can solve with the different circuit techniques, but just to take into account, it's important to address also current peaks, because your battery may gather enough energy, but may drop voltage because of series resistance. So you have to take into account current peaks. Here in this table is information from different manufacturers. This is just a survey on data sheets and published papers. These measurements are not ours, of current consumption in different IoT protocols, LoRa, power to transmit and to receive, Sigfox, RPMA, satellite communications, Wi-Fi, etc. You can see there in this plot and in this table, sorry. And it is important to take into account current peaks, because your battery life is not only limited by energy available, but also the maximum current peaks. That if you limit your battery life, you have to employ some kind of circuit techniques or circuits to slowly drain energy from the battery and put it available for transmit time. Okay. This is a new sensor example now using to compare different technologies using Sigfox. Sigfox is a proprietary technology, and it's a network server itself. Okay, so Sigfox uses the free part of the spectrum, the ISM band, but it's a licensed protocol, so you have to make some kind of arrangement with the Sigfox network to sorry, to use it. Okay, this sensor is just a temperature and humidity sensor. The idea is to monitor livestock shade protections during heat stress. Is a true problem in the livestock industry, because during the summer in Europe in particular, some days it's a lot of heat, so the animals suffer, reduce production, and in most of feedlots, people build this kind of shade protection. But very, very big hot days, the crowd of animals in the shade protection sometimes also cause difficulties, even animal death. Okay, and there are some kind of indicators in terms of temperature and humidity that allow to trigger not alarms, but in advance check how much stress has the animal accumulated, and to take actions to avoid essentially animal death. Okay, so we developed this sensor. Is in some terms it's simple sensors, just measure humidity and temperature and transmit using Sigfox to track this temperature humidity index. Okay, we are using Sigfox because it's closer to a plug-and-play sensor. We have not to deploy our own LoRa network. We assume that there's Sigfox coverage in this area. And since we're not going to deploy thousands sensors, just 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, okay, it's better to arrange with a pre-existing network like Sigfox rather than to deploy my own network. Okay. The node is based on an HE32SX. It's a silicon in package. As far as I remember, it's been produced in Brazil, this silicon in package, with the Sigfox transceiver, controller with the Sigfox tags and power amplifier. So it's very compact. Okay. This is the block diagram of the sensor, and in the right is a photo of the PCB, of current PCB, with a relatively small PCB antenna. Okay, and here in this plot we presented measurements of the current consumption of the node. This is to transmit 10 bytes, just 10 bytes. So you can see that it's a relatively large current peak, up to 120 milliamps, in a different prototype of exactly the same sensor with just a slightly different PCB antenna. We measure up to 170 milliamps, 170 milliamps. So during 1/3 of a second to transmit just 10 bytes. This is because Sigfox puts a lot of power and retransmits 3 times to make sure in an open loop that the data is being received. Okay. But if you integrate the energy, is not a high amount if you consider that they are going to transmit data 2, 3, 4 times per day. Okay. In this plot, we are comparing the power consumption, the energy. In reality, this plot is in reality is a measure of measured values of per byte energy necessary to transmit data in terms of the packet payload. The 2 blue dots are Sigfox. Are the dots because Sigfox you cannot transmit any kind of any amount of bytes in a packet. You're limited to 12 bytes maximum. So these 2 points are the 2 prototypes I mentioned, and the red lines and dots is for LoRa, using our measured LoRa current with an estimation of airtime using this kind of there are many LoRa airtime calculators in the internet. So we use our measure values with LoRa airtime calculators in the internet to complete these plots. Okay, so it's at least are comparable, not too different. Of course, Sigfox retransmit 3 times. Sigfox, our transceiver has a power amplifier. It's transmitted at 22 dBms, while LoRa is at, as far I remember, is 12. No, 20. Not too different, but okay. The values are close, at least close. Another example, a final example I'm going to present is a GPS tracker for cattle. The idea is just to track where my animal is in the farm. some people say it's not useful, but a lot, yes, for specific animals. And if you check in the internet, there are there are probably a dozen of products for this task to track animals. And for most of them, the battery life is short. The problem is not data transmission, but the problem is a GPS receiver consumes several tens milliamps of data. Okay. At the present, even GPS has evolved, and you can get this kind of assisted GPS protocols. And assisted GPS means that okay, the GPS download the GPS is a satellite positioning system that downloads satellite data each time, in principle, to fix a position. But this data is not only it's not only the distance to that satellite that can be measured in terms of time on air or on the shift in between signals, but also information on the satellite, the ephemeris, the position of each satellite that cannot be previewed in advance because of many changes, things that you cannot preview in advance. Downloading this complete data takes a relatively large amount of energy for the receiver, but now if you're employing this low power area network to transmit data to the cloud, we can also use the same link that is much more power saving to at least partially download satellite information, not from the satellite itself, instead from the internet. Okay, this is most manufacturers talk about assisted GPS in this case, and here in the plot we got here in the block diagram, this is just a simple block diagram of the GPS receiver. We got a GPS receiver, narrowband IoT modem, and the CPU. On the left of the picture, we got the measured energy necessary in joules necessary to fix a position using standard GPS and assisted GPS. And a cold, warm, and hot start. That means cold start is a power up the GPS receiver. Warm if I got a relatively recent ephemeris from my satellite constellation, and hot start if I got a very, very recent ephemeris from all satellites. Okay. So now in this case, we got information then about how much energy is necessary to fix a position, and we are using a narrowband IoT modem. Narrowband, as is indicated in the app, is the 3GPP protocol for Internet of Things. One of 3GPP is a consortium of most regulators that essentially they deploy standards for communications using cellular networks. Okay, the licensed portion of the spectrum for cellular networks. Okay, and in theory we can power this collar for tracking an animal for a bit more than a year, transmitting one position per hour, obtaining and transmitting one position per hour. This calculation does not take into account assisted GPS, because you have to get it's a licensed version of the GPS. You have to arrange with the manufacturer to get the data. So we measure with the standard GPS. Okay, and here is also measurements on power consumption of the narrowband IoT protocol in comparison to older 3G protocol. Okay, like before, there is a per byte energy in millijoules necessary to transmit a different amount of packet payload. Note how the per byte energy reduces with the payload. This is because cellular network protocols have a much more amount of signalization messages in between the node and the radio base. Okay, and an optimum is at approximately 2 kilobytes. Okay, Yeah, okay. Just to compare the nodes in this table, we got a comparison for a 10 byte data packet, the measured current peaks in these prototypes and energy in millijoules to transmit data. We're comparing here Sigfox, LoRa at different configurations, narrowband IoT, and 3G. You see that the energy is at least in the order for the four first protocols that is specific IoT IMED protocols, while 3G, okay, is a lot of energy, is not efficient. And in the bottom, this is kind of pie chart. It contains for the three sensors, that is the Sigfox temperature and humidity, the LoRa estrus detector, and the tracker, how much of the energy is spent to transmit data, to sense data, how many is spent in the sleep, in the sleep time, okay? So of course the average power consumption of the tracker is much more because of the GPS, but you see that battery life in terms of energy, with very small batteries, you can transmit data at the rate necessary for the agribusiness for years. Okay. Of course, you have you have to address the current peaks that will be for the next year. If Ricardo invites me, we can discuss how to address current peaks with small batteries and circuits and supercapacitors and batteries, etc. Okay. Okay, and a final part of my presentation, I will go fast in this portion of the presentation. It's about RFID. What do I mean about RFID? And RFID-based sensors that at the present RFID, I mean, okay, because RFID you can use a very wide concept. I'm going to use the narrow definition of RFID. It's a method to track animal pieces, lots in the industry. I'm going to use the narrow concept of the RFID, that is a chip and an antenna. It's a battery-less ID protocol, ID technology, where you got a reader that provides energy in some way, probably with electromagnetic waves, a coupled transformer or something like that. But you provide energy from the reader to this kind of tag with a chip, just a small chip that just backscatter information. Okay, this is what I'm going to use as RFID definition. It's a narrow. Here are the main protocols, so the main frequency ranges for RFID. On the top is low frequency. This is commonly used in animals. High frequency, about 13 megahertz, is used in payment, free payment, credit cards, and access control. And UHF is ultra high frequency, about around 900 megahertz. It's very common in markets where with this kind of electronic tags for road tolls, things like that. Okay. At the present, you have to forget of RFID, because at the present, RFID is still the largest entry point for information to the cloud. So when we're thinking Internet of Things, accessing information, uploading information from an item, an animal, a vehicle to the Internet, RFID protocols, RFID readers are still the larger in number. Okay, it's the highest way to upload data from Internet of Things objects to the cloud. Okay, RFID has been employed for a long time. For example, to track animals, for animal ID. Here, ear tags for cattle, calf for poultry, ear tags for sheep and pigs, etc. Okay. Here, this is a reader. It's being produced this is manufactured by the company mentioned. It's an RFID reader using the standard 134.2 kilohertz standard for animal ID. And what is interesting, that this reader can communicate with Bluetooth scales, smartphone, tablets. We got a version that can read QR codes, etc. This is a photo of an assembled reader. It's interesting. You see there the Bluetooth module on the center, the user interface, the RFID portion of the reader. Okay, and what is interesting that the RFID readers at the present become not just a reader for traceability, but a kind of information resource. The idea is you got the database in the cattle yards with this kind of readers. So you can make queries, upload information, ask for weight gain, weight loss of an animal, check sanity conditions, treatments. Okay, it's very interesting because once you got computing power in your hand, you got a kind of information system for decision taking on the go. Okay. Of course, the same concept can be extended to different industries in the agribusiness, like fisheries, cattle, wood, even for transportation. And what is interesting that once you got this kind of RFID readers that are very, very efficient, very relatively cheap and massively available in the industry, you can now, let's go a step further and implement sensors. Okay, using this RFID technology to communicate that data. The objective is simple, is to reduce the cost to massively deploy sensors, because the complexity now is on the reader, and the tag is just a chip with an antenna. Okay, a small step further. I can use the energy that the reader is providing me to read to take a measure. For example, we can identify temperature of food. We can identify, for example, this is a meat trade, searching for contaminants. Okay, and we got these handhelds. I got a handheld here in my desk a few minutes ago. With these handhelds, you can very, very popular, very powerful computers in your hand to pick up information from sensors. Okay, some examples we develop. I'm going to go really fast here. Based on this low frequency reader, in the past we developed a temperature sensors using low frequency to communicate data, and we developed then an ASIC for the same task to extend the communication distance. Because if you got a battery on the own sensor, I don't need energy to perform the measurement. I don't need energy to transmit data. I'm using just detecting the presence of a reader to wake up. And this detection you can do with a very efficient low power circuit, just to detect the presence of a reader to transmit data. And we're doing that with 1 microamp. Okay, so this is a specific integrated circuit to wake up low frequency sensors. Okay, another example will be to extend the communication distance between a reader and a semi-active tag using this chip. Okay, and now I'm reaching the end. This is the happy face because this long presentation is getting to the end. So some conclusions, very brief. So we presented many examples. Just to mention, we presented these the chips, the RISC-V processor. We presented a specific IoT nodes for the agri-food industry, like the electronic shelf label, the estrus detector, the temperature humidity sensor, the tracker for animals, and the RFID sensors. Very important for the agribusiness. Okay, the idea is once again to get the most of your battery. This is the key aspect to make sensors success. To put sensors to transmit data in a reliable way. This is not not always simple, but transmitting for years without upgrading software, firmware, without changing the battery, without changing the gateway, okay, for ideally 10 years, okay? And there's a need and an opportunity at the present to incorporate technology in the agribusiness, okay? I see in Uruguay, even in Uruguay, that it's, in my opinion, a relatively technified country in the agribusiness sector. There are plenty, a lot of opportunities to incorporate technology. In our case, we're working with these low power sensors for the agribusiness. Okay, and with this, I finish my presentation, and I'm very I will be very happy if any question of you. Here's my email for okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Alfredo, for this nice talk in a topic that is very important in our region. No? So we have here some questions. First one by João Henrique Ribeiro Figueiredo from URGS and Embrapa Bento Gonçalves. Hello, Alfredo. Are you considering 5G in your studies? Can you talk a bit about its impact?
Okay, 5G is like IoT. It's a concept that's covering many things, in my opinion, and probably narrowband IoT will evolve in 5G, but we are not working with specific new technologies because 5G is supposed to develop as a new radio. If you are involved in 5G, is the new radio protocol that is supposed to, in some ways, substitute narrowband IoT. But in my opinion, still a lot of time for these protocols to be available, at least for low power and long distance communication. It's different if you are in a city. In my opinion, 5G is more oriented to the ideas behind 5G that cover many things, many protocols, many aspects are more oriented to smart cities rather than the IoT in the agribusiness. At the present, we are not working with new radio. We are not working with the 3GPP. We are just using available technology and measuring power consumption and try to get the most of our batteries, developing innovative power systems. Okay, but we are not working with a 5G in the sense of new radio protocol that, as far as I know, is not yet released or things like that. Okay.
Thank you. So now a question by Karina Kern from UFRGS. So, hi, Professor Alfredo. What about the Sigfox network? When a device is connected to it, its data is shared with all the network. Is there a concern about data privacy?
No. Sigfox network considers, and they take it, they're very serious about considering the privacy and the security of your data. Okay, it's not shared. They got the middleware, and you got access to your data. It's not too different if you are processing payment. Of course, nobody can work that you're hacker free. It's a hacker free protocol like e-payment. Okay, but no. Sigfox networks considers it's a kind of security layer. It's relatively transparent for the user, but of course your data is not shared, and your data travels encrypted. Okay. It's just you. It's like a telephone. Like a telephone company. You're using a private network, and you have to arrange with your Sigfox provider with the conditions to access your information and the permissions to your people, but that's not shared.
Thank you. So another question here by William Hazenkamp from HT Micron. Thanks you for referring to our product, Professor Alfredo. By the way, we also have a LoRa plus BLE SIP, just in case you want to try, and also NB IoT, same package size, yes, designed and manufactured in Brazil.
Excellent. The first time I listened about Micron, it was I think 3 or 4 years ago in a presentation in Porto Alegre. I remember, it probably were you. I'm very bad to preserve names and faces, but of course, William, our problem is time. But I'm very, very interested in trying for not only for university but for industrial applications products. I can ask Ricardo for your contact. Okay. Excellent.
Okay, thank you. So another question by Victorio Mariani from Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul. Hello, Professor Alfredo. Considering that the identification of animals automatically through RFID, the TX would be further away from the RX. In this case, would we use UHF hearings?
Victoria, I'm not sure about the first part of your question, but regarding UHF earrings, the problem is water. It's well known that water absorbs UHF frequency, and a cow is a huge ball of water, so it's a known problem. Water. That UHF absorbs water in earrings. The other main reason, because we are using low frequency in animal IDs. Okay, it's regulations, but also if you're working with a crowd of animals and you want to read that animal, if you are using low frequency, you're very sure, you're definitely sure that you can read, for example, in a kind of sphere, say 40 centimeters away of your reader, and you are going to read an animal 1 meter below. The problem with UHF is because of reflections, and okay, it's very nice because you can read at 10 meters with HF, but even if you lower the power of your reader, you're not sure that you're reading exactly this animal and not one beside. Of course, at the present, there are many companies, and we are working on that also. You can start using different intelligent algorithms to filter data and to avoid reading undecided animals, and to read even in the presence of water. And it's very important to incorporate ear tags in the case of animals with less value, because, for example, a cow may cost $1,000, but poultry, you got an animal has no sense to put expensive ID in ID tags, because low frequency are much more expensive than UHF in animals of low cost. But the main problems for UHF are that water absorbs UHF, and that you have to ID exactly the animal you are pointing to, and this is not so easy with UHF. But of course, it's a problem that can be solved with technology.
Okay. So I'm seeing no more questions in the chat now, but I have one. So you talk several times about power consumption, as well the use of battery. What about energy harvesting, or in the agriculture to use, or also with the cattle to use solar energy?
In my opinion, about energy harvesting, in my opinion, it's a matter of the practical use, because in theory it's okay, but in my opinion, it's not easy once you put it in practice, because of dust, because of price, because of how to in an animal. It's very difficult to. I see a lot of in the past a lot of times collars for animals incorporated solar panels, and it was very difficult to get it in the right position, to avoid dust, water. Solar panels means a larger device, so the larger, the most likely is for mechanical damage on devices. So in my opinion, but it's an opinion, every time you can use a primary battery, do it. It's like pacemakers. You got pacemakers I've been working with. It's the first pacemaker got 50 years old. Okay. And in 50 years, many people wanted to, why don't we recharge batteries in pacemakers? And the president was still using primary batteries in pacemakers. So if you can do it, of course, there are many sensors that you cannot, the energy is not enough. For example, you got a camera. You want a camera making artificial intelligence on images and transmitting an alarm, for example, okay, but if you want to make image processing, you probably is not enough a primary battery. And I have seen cameras using solar panels, but not in animals. And in my opinion, if possible to avoid solar panels, avoid, because of practicity, particularly in moving sensors.
Okay. William also is saying that we would love to change RFIDs to BLE beacons and integrate into our LoRa BLE device. We have a very nice case, of course. Device is 20 meters from the ground, but we could communicate BLE on 500-meter distance.
Okay. Of course, in my opinion, Bluetooth low energy is excellent. The problem once again is practicity, as I mentioned. For example, for animal ID, I have seen also people trying to use Bluetooth for the animal ID. But the problem is you got a crowd of animals, you want to identify the exact animal, and it would be very enough if you got a kind of point and ID device. And the point and ID device still low frequency. Because Bluetooth, you because of distance, you are reading every animal, and how are you sure that the animal you're pointing to is the animal you're reading? This is there's a trade-off between practical and it's not geolocalization, like location. It's location of the ID and the distance. But of course, I every day I'm surprised with a new application of low power wide area networks transmitting kilometers, 100 meters with very, very low power. And Bluetooth low energy, it is. But for the ID in the agribusiness, not always there's a problem of distance. Sometimes a problem of locate exactly what I want to read. Is point and read.
Okay, thank you. So final question here by Professor Altamiro Suzin. Transmission is the most power consumption operation. Would you suggest to have more computing in the edge, like transmitting only if new significant data is generated? And what would be the guidelines to balance both activities?
Okay. Not always, as I shown in my presentation, my slide. Not always transmit power is the more power demanding part of the application. You have to balance the idea. If you spend a lot of power in transmitting and few in edge computing, probably you got room to balance. Again, the optimum is when you balance transmitting a lot of information and making a lot of making the most possible edge computing. Probably so you have to reach a balance that is very application dependent. Okay, I have not a recipe to say do in this way or in this way, but I see that people working for making their products to evolve always get a balance, get an optimum where you got a balance between transmitting and edge computing.
Okay.
But transmitting is not the most demanding. not necessary, at least.
Okay, so thank you very much, Alfredo, for this nice talk.
Okay.
Before closing the session, just some brief announcements. So next week we have a not next week, but the week after, we have a talk by Alfonso Chacon Rodriguez from High Dev Costa Rica, talking about the High Dev Design House. So I hope to see you all on December 19, 5 p.m. Brasilia time, and GMT -3. And also next week we have a special event here in Porto Alegre. So next Wednesday, we are celebrating 40 years of the official setup of the microelectronics group in our university. So we are going to have a opening session with some short address by director of the schools here and the societies and so on, as well the award by the special interest group in integrated circuit design of the Brazilian Computer Society will be given. Also, we are going to do a short introduction in the history of the group, then a panel with the participation of Suzin, me, Marcelo Lubazewski, that was one of the first students of the group, and Daltro Nunes, Professor Daltro Nunes, that was the head of the graduate program at that time, and Professor Claudio Diniz will be the moderator. Then we have a second panel to talk a little bit about the future in micro and nanoelectronics in the state and in Brazil. And we are going to have the participation of Augusto Gadelha, that is the CEO of CEITEC, Júlio Leão from Insilica, Guilherme Breyer from Impinge, Bernardo Pulau from Silvaco, and Felipe Ferreira from HT Micron. And the panel will be moderated by Professor Sérgio Bampi. I didn't include here in the slides, but on the day after, in December 14, we have the final meeting of the CASS Rio Grande do Sul chapter. So it will be a CASS meeting, and the program is being announced. And we start with a talk by Professor François Rivet from University of Bordeaux in France. So I hope to see you next week. Probably the two events will be also available by the internet. We are going to send this information later. So thank you all that attend this last CASS talk of the year, and I hope to see you next week in these events. And also January we are going to start the season 2024 of the CASS talks. So thank you very much again, Alfredo, for your nice
No,
talk,
thank you for
your nice work that you are doing in Uruguay.
Thanks for your invitation.
And everybody will have the opportunity to meet you in person end of February at Lascas in Punta del Este.
Of course.
Yeah. So bye-bye to all. Have a nice weekend.